Hello friends and welcome to another belated video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the huge Star Trek universe. 50 years and a few days ago NBC aired a new episode of the original Star Trek TV show called Captain Kirk the Space Nazi. Well, actually it's called Patterns of Force. These are my honest opinions about it. Well, this will be interesting. This video will talk about Nazis and Jews, so I guess I can kiss the monetization goodbye. As I said before, the Star Trek format allowed the producers to do completely different genres. This episode is an analogy to Nazis and Jews. Unfortunately, it's not very subtle. The Enterprise is on a mission to find a missing Federation history professor, whose last known position was the planet Ecos. Professor John Gills was actually one of Kirk's instructors on the Academy, which means he will have a personal connection. But instead of the professor, the Enterprise is greeted by a rocket with a thermonuclear warhead. Since none of the two planets, Ecos and Zion, should have that kind of technology, there is just one possible explanation. The professor has done something more than just observe. He has done something which changed their civilizations. That's of course a violation of the Prime Directive, which means that the search and rescue mission has suddenly changed into an arrest mission. Kirk and Spock dress up in 1960s Earth outfit and beam down to the planet. And Spock says something stupid. Ecosians are humanoids, therefore it's logical they have a human architecture. You know, the Mayans were people just like Englishmen were people, but I don't remember seeing many pyramids in England. Of course, they needed an explanation why are they shooting at Paramount Backlot, but to be honest, not including this quote-unquote explanation would, in my opinion, improve the scene. But we have no time for thinking about that, because the two of them witness a scene they didn't expect. Two Nazi soldiers hunt down and arrest a Jew. Sorry, a Zion. You know, I love good allegory, but this is a bit too much for me. Zion is of course Zion. This young man is Isaac, which is of course Isaac. We later meet also his brother Abram, which is of course Abraham. There is also a Devot, and so on. Could they be a bit more subtle? And they didn't even change the Nazis. I mean, they have typical Nazi uniforms with swastikas, and they have a Führer, and his real name is... No, I am not going where some of you would prefer me to go. I am not going to name any real politicians. His name is of course John Gill, as we soon see on a big screen. Kirk and Spock want to get to him to fix what he messed up, but are soon found by a Nazi. At least Spock gets a uniform. But what will Kirk wear? Well, thankfully there are enough Nazis for everybody. You know, if Nazis are really so easily defeatable, why were they not destroyed earlier? And it's quite interesting to see two Jewish actors dressed up like Nazis. But one officer doesn't like Spock's color and forces him to give his helmet down, so this whole subplot was... what? Yes, absolutely pointless. When we see our heroes the next time, they are naked in a cell and are being whipped. Well, I've seen enough porn to know where this is going, but no, Chairman Anek has to come in and ruin the fun. By the way, Anek spelled backwards is Gene. Did they just call their big boss a Nazi? And he was okay with it? Anyway, Anek stops their whipping, which gives them a chance to get out of the prison, and they of course manage to get out in a proper MacGyver way, using parts of the bed, their transponders, and the light bulb. They create a laser of course. And they cut the door lock out and then use the prisoner escape from the cell cliché number 2. Kirk pretends he wants to talk. When the guard arrives, Spock attacks him from behind, and both of them leave together with Isaac, the young guy who we met in the previous scene, and I must learn how to write shorter sentences. They need their phasers, so they use Isaac's knowledge to get to the lab. A Nazi soldier interrupts them, but of course he is down within a few seconds and they have a new uniform. You know, If your enemy can be defeated easily, there is no point in having an enemy in the story at all. Isaac brings them to their hideout, but they are surprised by a young girl in a Nazi uniform who is an official hero of the Empire. She shoots Abram, Isaac's brother, dead, and plans to shoot Kirk. But there is no woman which Kirk wouldn't beat. That's how they discover that this woman, Daras, is actually working for the Zeons. She is an Ecosian herself, but she hates the Nazis and wants to free both of their nations. And the great thing is that she has an opportunity to get them to the Führer. The Führer and the whole head of the Nazi party will be doing a speech in the Chancellery, which everybody expects will contain the quote-unquote final solution, an official declaration of the war on Zeon. To infiltrate the building, Kirk, Spock and Isaac pretend they are Daras's filming team and they are doing a documentary about the Führer and his historic speech. They get outside the Führer's room, but can't get inside because of his guards. So suddenly the guards are a threat? Why? You can defeat them in a few seconds, haven't you watched the episode so far? At least Spock managed to take a glimpse into the room, and he thinks that Gil might be drugged. In the first empty room they find, Kirk calls Uhura and tells her to beam McCoy down in a Nazi uniform as soon as possible. Daras tells them that their transmission was traced and they are searching for them when Bones beams down to the room, having a problem with his boots. And of course, Anek and two soldiers get to the room. So they know that somebody from that area has started an unknown transmission. They find their people who have no reason to be there and they let them go after they are told that they are hiding Colonel McCoy because he's drunk? Okay, Anek has a good reason for behaving like that, as we soon find out, but what about the soldiers? Does nobody ask questions? Nobody dares to privately say to their leader that maybe it's worth to check them. The speech starts, and because of Gil's incoherent mumbling, they understand that he indeed is on drugs, controlled by somebody else. And now, a few minutes before the end of the episode, we meet the villain of this episode, Führer's deputy, Melakon. He explains that rockets with warheads are on the way to Zeon and their orders are, well, genocide. Our heroes manage to get to Gil's room and using a combination of McCoy's drugs and Spock's mind meld, they now know the truth. Gil explains them that when he arrived on Ecos, the planet was in a huge chaos and anarchy, so he did what any good historian would do. He took over the government and changed their political system to National Socialism. What, wouldn't you do the same? For some reason he thought that he can only take one thing from the Nazi regime, its efficiency, but Melakon overtook his regime and now he's the real ruler of the planet and he's using Gil as his drugged puppet. They get again interrupted by Anek and his men, and they now use Spock as a decoy, but what a surprise! Anek is working with the Zeons. Okay, I must admit, I didn't expect that, so good work. Our heroes manage to get Gil into making a new speech in which he gives his final order to retreat and apologizes to the Zeons. Melakon then steals a machine gun and kills him. After that, he gets shot by Isaac. So, Gil dies, Melakon dies, and the war is apparently over. So now, what do they do with all of the existing Nazis? I mean, this was a political system, it wasn't really dependent on one man only. If there are millions of Ecosians hating the Zeons, they won't start loving them because their fear is dead, right? And look, even Melakon has his people in the same room. Some of the soldiers wanted to kill Isaac for killing their boss, so it's not really a case of just one man responsible for all of this. That's just the wrong message, and the ending is just inappropriate. This is not the kind of an episode which should end with a funny bridge banter between our main three stars, not at all. I honestly don't know what to think about this episode. I love when they do social commentary, and also episodes with parallels to our history or present times, but I prefer if the analogies are a bit more subtle. I don't really like when they are trying to beat us over the head with the message. And by the way, what is the message here? That Nazis are bad? I think that we all know that, don't we? Now, there are some funny little in-jokes, like the Nazi turned ally named Anek, like Jean, or Spock saying to Kirk that he would make an excellent Nazi. These little moments are funny, but I do have problems with the story. For example, why do our heroes meet so many Nazi soldiers when they manage to overcome them within seconds? If the obstacles are not challenging, why are they in the story? Because they feel like padding. And I don't really like the idea that if you kill the big boss, everything will be magically alright. This works in a fairy tale and in video games, but not in real life. Nazis didn't lose the war because Adolf Hitler committed suicide. Adolf Hitler committed suicide because the Nazis lost the war. You can't kill a hateful ideology. You can only make the people who like the ideology hide in the shadows, where they will grow silently larger and wait for the right moment to come to the public. The only way how to win is to change the minds of all of these people and peacefully explain them why they are wrong. Yes, our ancestors have fought the Nazis and the commies, but now in 2018 there are still people who think that Jews are running the world. We have white people spreading hate against black people, we have black people spreading hate against white people, you have men spreading hate against women, and you have women spreading hate against men. There are so many active ideologies based on spreading hate against, quote-unquote, the other side, and art was always exploring these problems. What I'm trying to say in this kind of incoherent rant is that Star Trek used to talk about all of the different ideologies and shown to the viewers why these ideologies are dangerous. Star Trek used to tell us stories about Nazis, racism, wars, sex, drug addiction, venereal diseases, mental illnesses, torture, sexual orientation, terrorism, and many more things which need to be talked about. And usually it did it without being too preachy. I miss Star Trek, and I hope we will get a new Star Trek one day. We need it more than we are willing to admit. Okay, this got a bit more serious than I planned, sorry for that. The next episode should be a bit more fun. On my scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is complete garbage, 10 is a masterpiece, and 5 is just average, I would give this episode 6 out of 10. It is pretty enjoyable, but way too repetitive, and the only way how I can describe the message is a wasted opportunity. It could be better, it should be better. But as always, these were just my opinions. Feel free to write down your opinions down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, and if you like what I do on this channel, check out other videos. You should see some links on screen right now, and I'm off to do a video about the Next Generation episode Angel 1. Oh boy, the episode which I was trying to avoid because it deals with everybody's favorite topic, feminism. But anyway, thank you very much for watching and see you soon. Bye.